Hello and welcome to the Home Assistant Podcast. My name's Phil. Joining me as usual, I've got Rohan. How's it going?
Hey, good.
And joining us from the US, we've got Brett. Hey, Brett.
Hi, how's it going?
This episode is sponsored by Home Assistant Cloud by Nabu Casa. Easily access your local Home Assistant instance remotely for a small monthly fee that supports the Home Assistant and ESP home projects. Configuration is done by the user interface, so there's no fiddling with router settings, SSL certs, or any other YAML.
All right, so tell us a bit about yourself, Brett, where you're from in the US and what's got you started in Home Assistant.
I'm from Charleston, West Virginia, over on the Eastern Seaboard.
Mm-hmm.
I got started in the Home Assistant since I was a programmer since I started going to school for programming. But then it kind of evolved into just teaching others how to program.
Yep.
Because computer science in this area doesn't really exist. Some people think we're the boonies, and it's essentially what that is. Technology other than IT just doesn't really exist around here.
Right.
I know. I remember your email that you sent us through. You're like, the non-existent tech world of West Virginia or something like that, I think you said.
Yeah.
So what release of Home Assistant did you get started with?
I think it was release 0.35.
Okay, so pretty early, yeah.
Yeah. Somewhere around, I think Phil and I were in that era to some point, but
I think so. Had you used any other automation systems before Home Assistant, or was Home Assistant your first, foray into home automation?
If you want to count Amazon Alexa, before their hub it got introduced,
right? Yep.
And then IFT before they went to a paid model, then that was probably that's probably the closest thing I have.
And so I guess, okay, so you've got IFT, the Amazon Echo. I'm assuming then you would have started with, some smart lights that were all, cloud-based, and then you've grown from there. How did that come about?
I didn't start. I started it for my grandfather, since both of us are a little more tech oriented. Nice. He wanted some cool lights to play around with. So we got him like a Philips Hue starter kit. We got that. I amazed him with how quick I can learn this stuff, and I used an IFT recipe just so that he can text the color of a light, and then it'll happen.
Oh, interesting.
Cool.
So he could text, red to a certain phone number, and then the lights would change red.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Nice.
Was there a use case for that, or was it just, hey, this is cool, let's do it, why not?
There wasn't a use case. I just thought it'd be funny.
Yep, that's cool.
There is no need for a logical use case if you can do something just for giggles.
Yeah, that's where I currently am now with the insane stuff I pull off in Home Assistant now.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Because I keep telling a funny story all the time where I automated my door lock to a toilet.
Okay, please, I'm going to need to tease that. Tell me more. So you automated a door lock to a toilet, as in just the toilet at home, or at
yes, toilet in my house.
It's just an arbitrary toilet somewhere.
Just a random public toilet. It's automated.
No, that's in my plans,
that.
just for fun. No, my cat, she likes to get in the toilet, and she's gotten sick a lot from drinking the water. So,
right.
Sure.
One of the problems that I had is that, I can't stop that when guests come over and they don't close the lid. So a passive aggressive way that I do it is I go through a Z-Wave door sensor. It's like how Dr. Z's did it in his tutorial on doing that. So it opened the lid, it unlocks the door. It also turns on a wax melter for 10 minutes and the exhaust fan. And then it will not unlock the door until you close the lid.
So basically someone's locked in your toilet until they close the lid of the toilet.
I was going to ask, how many times this has backfired?
It has not backfired yet.
Okay.
Because because here's the funny thing. I have one of the Zemi Smart switches. I flash them with ESP Home. It's the ones with the 3 buttons. Mm-hmm. It's with an Australian faceplate or something. Mm-hmm. So I mounted that in there. And then the third button, the bottom button on that switch is an emergency unlock. But you have to double click it to have it as an emergency unlock so that I have some safety. But I did put an automation in there. It says it's like a timing thing, since I put it in ESP Home as a different timing. If you do a regular double click, the Echo inside the bathroom will say, maybe you should close the lid before I let you out.
Wow, so you're I mean, there's passive aggressive, and then there's that.
Yeah, that's the whole reason I made it.
Wow.
I like that.
I think we just found ourselves an episode title right there.
Yeah.
Brett and his passive aggressive automation.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So I'm really fascinated by this. So I'm in your toilet and I haven't closed the lid. What door lock, or how is the door locked? Is it like a magnetic?
It's a magnetic lock.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'm assuming then it is that if the power's out, the failsafe is that it will then unlock. Yep. Okay.
That's mostly a safety reason, so that if a fire happens and power goes out, then
Yep.
like I'm not trying to trap them and just get into a fire. You know what I'm saying? Like all I'm trying to do is make sure the lid's closed. I'm not trying to kill them.
I mean, you really must care about your lid being closed if you're trying to kill them at that point. So
it's like the whole thing. It's like Spider-Man 3. It's like you'll get your rent when you fix this door.
that's right.
It's kind of like that kind of aggressiveness.
I'm guessing just a post-it note on the back of the door near the handle, please close the toilet lid before you leave. It wasn't good enough.
Yeah.
What other have you got to any other passive aggressive automations in the house that you've just thought, yeah, the toilet door automations worked perfectly. Everyone knows now that they, have to put the toilet lid down before I'll let them out of the toilet. What else can I, annoy people with?
Well, there actually is another one for the bathroom too. So, it's where since the litter box is in the bathroom, and I had to keep that door open for my cat because my cat's an older cat. Can't really move the litter box anywhere else. I don't really have a choice. So I had to put a door sensor on there, but if the light is off and the door is closed, it announces to every single echo in the house, it's like, you need to keep the door open for the cat.
Right.
That's probably the most passive aggressive that comes to that. But that did backfire. That one was not fun. I was on a trip to Lynchburg, Virginia, and I was gone from that. My uncle and my grandfather, they were working on this room that I'm in here right now because we were just putting new floors in and stuff. My grandfather doesn't have any pets, so he kept the door. He passive aggressively wanted me to. He was changing the trim in a door, and he couldn't change the top trim because of the door sensor. So his way of passive aggressively telling me you need to take the door sensor off is to take the battery out of the sensor. And the problem is that he left that day, the battery was out of the sensor, and he closed the door to the bathroom, not firing the automation.
Right.
No. So, of course, Home Assistant didn't know that the door was closed. Yep. What did you come home to?
I came home to a lot of poop.
Yeah. And a very angry cat, I bet.
No, not an angry cat. She's barely angry, but she was probably scared because of how I would react, because I have to retrain her now. I'm still retraining her after that because it's been 2 weeks.
Wow.
Because, older cats, they're a lot harder to train.
Yep.
That makes sense, yeah.
Okay. Fair enough. So, it sounds like people coming over to your house don't, if they need to use the bathroom, they might go somewhere else. But maybe it's embarrassing having to leave the bathroom door open if they've just had to do a doozy and it's not the cat, right?
Well, the thing is that it's when the light is off and the door's closed.
Right. Okay.
And I don't know anybody in my immediate family that would keep the light off and the door closed.
Yep.
Unless they're maniacal.
That's funny. All right. So that's your cat. What other cool other automations have you got around the place?
Well, I have smaller ones. I used what you built with Hawthorne, and I used that to automate some Amcrest to MQTT Docker containers.
Ah, nice.
So that it turns on the container if the doorbells are online.
Okay.
So it saves it. I'm running my entire system off of a office computer I ripped out of a musical instrument store. So a processing power is like gold.
Yeah. Yep. So tell me the logic on why you only want those containers running when the cameras are on. Do the cameras go offline for something, or?
Well, mostly because I haven't mounted them yet. and they're more of a I haven't mounted them yet because this house that I'm currently in was built in the 40s. So I have to replace literally everything about it. Like, the walls are super thin. There's literally no insulation in the house. The wiring in this house is quite literally cloth wrapped wire from the 40s, which is a huge fire hazard now.
Yeah, you think? Wow, that's crazy.
So I have to change everything about this house before I can even consider stuff like that. You don't have no idea how many automations I had to create with a Nest thermostat or even some powered like smart plugs just to keep the heat in here while also retaining enough energy to, so that it doesn't go through the roof.
Of course.
And I considered solar quite a few times. Problem is that geographically where I live in West Virginia, if you don't like to do coal, then you're the enemy of the coal, because we're basically just we're a state that's coal dependent. Right. Most of the state is coal miners and everything else like that. And if you talk about anything that's not coal, I think you get burned at the stake for that.
Sure, I guess it kind of makes sense, right? Especially as it drives a lot of the economy, it creates a lot of jobs there locally. But
well, yeah, but I understand. That's one of the big things that, like, I'm still into solar. And I'm still, like, I kind of have to be a part of they don't have any good solar programs around here. And that's mainly because where I live. It's the same. It turns out it's the same thing as Kentucky, too. So, because they're also coal driven, too. Yeah. But, hey, if I'm going to be advancement, I might as well step forward first.
Yep. No better time to do it, right?
But so the cameras, like, you haven't mounted them. When they go offline, like, so why would they go offline? Like, are they battery powered cameras, or you just disconnecting them regularly? Like, is there a schedule that you're running them to?
Not quite. It's mainly because I wanted them to kick online when I initially mount the thing. Like, when I mount it, and then my Unify system detects, hey, I saw this on the network. And then Home Assistant says, "Hey, I'm going to turn on the Docker container."
Yep.
It's mostly because I don't want to forget to turn on the Docker container when I finally mount the thing.
Makes sense. Yep.
Right.
So it's a temporary automation, really. It's not going to be permanent.
And what is that Docker container you're using doing? Like, does that, like, just pull in a video feed into Home Assistant, or does it save the recordings from the cameras? Or
no. It's what DigiBlur DIY made for Amcrest to MQTT, or at least he was showing about. Essentially, it just gives me more data and the button press itself, which is great, because then I could just do some funny things when somebody does, like, when presses the doorbell. Because I have I made a ESP home device using the the MP3 player thing, like the DF player.
Yep. Okay. Yeah.
And I used the sound clip from South Park. It's like, "Mom, get the door."
Nice.
Scares people a lot.
I'm sure. That's funny.
That's good. I like it.
That's one of the other reasons why I wanted to automate stuff to do like deep stack and facial recognition stuff, since I haven't done that yet. So one of the things I wanted to do, if you're familiar with Colin Furs.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
So I wanted to recreate the airsoft AK-47 coming out of the bush. But add a D1 Mini as the controller and just wreak havoc.
Yeah.
I think because I get a lot of door-to-door people, I get a lot of like Jesus Christ Latter-day Saints and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I get a lot of people I don't want to talk to.
Sure.
And it's not a crime around here, so I can get away with it scot-free.
I guess that's one interesting use case for Home Assistant.
That's
one I would
just aggressive.
Yes,
that's
exactly.
Right. That's right. That's just aggressive.
that's just straight rude.
Yeah. So how do you drive a lot of these? So I know you talked about a couple of these automations, and for the most part, they seem to be pretty, like, automated. I know you talked about your grandfather's. I don't know if it's in the same house or not, where you can text a color and it changes the lights and stuff. How is like, what ways do you use to drive it? So is it through the Amazon Echoes, tablets, phone?
Like
just
through
straight
the
automations.
Like the original way, like how I started, or like
currently.
Well, see, here's the thing. I'm doing something kind of weird with this whole thing, where I'm doing a little bit of Node-RED and then Home Assistant stuff based on what application it is. If it's like, I know I have the watchdog for Node-RED, but one of the things I wanted to do is make it, if I want to make it like super simple and work with Home Assistant when Home Assistant boots, it'll be a Home Assistant automation. If it's something super complex like my alarm system, that's going to be on Node-RED because then I could visualize it better.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. But do you use any voice or anything though?
Yeah, I have a bunch of Echoes around here, and I do a lot of. I kind of have this. I do that, and then I have Fire 7 tablets all over the house. I have 5 of them. So that I can drive all sorts of I even have it where it dual boots 2 apps. It uses the Fully Kiosk browser, but it also uses Android IP webcams, and it makes it so that I can have streaming webcams only on because I have it sent an MQTT message to each unit in Tasker that can turn on the app when I'm not home, and then it turns off the app when I am home. So it's more of a security layer for me.
Oh, cool. Okay.
That's interesting. And you've just got a Lovelace dashboard running on those tablets throughout the house?
That was actually something I'm working on. It's originally the Lovelace dashboard that I've made, but it's been so messy and it's just messy and put together. It's been built up for 5-6 years, but man, it's messy and I just need to work on it a little more.
Yeah, I can imagine. How do you find the speed of the tablets too? I know I've got a couple of Fire tablets, and the speed can be a little bit slow to navigate around.
Speed wasn't that bad to me, but I think that's not the main concern. The main concern is the ads. The ads that you see on the front of it. I hate it. I hate it so much. I have tried scripts I found on GitHub to get rid of these ads if they're exclusively going to be for tablet installations, and they will just wake your screen. They'll just wake your screen just to look at the ad. It's woken me up before because the screen's just so bright. Even if I adjusted the brightness through fully and the custom component in hacks, it just is blaring. It's the worst thing.
Yeah, because I've got the ad supported version too, and I found that when I was running Fully Kiosk, as long as Fully Kiosk, I didn't lock the screen in the Android settings. Fully Kiosk was technically, the foreground app that was constantly running, and it would just black the screen. I never found that the ads would, turn themselves on. I would find that, if Fully Kiosk crashed or whatever, then I may see an ad or something, but generally, it was fine.
Yeah, I think I found that, but that was under screensaver, not really locking the screen. I think that's what I tried, and I saw that too.
Yeah, it was definitely just a setting somewhere in Fully Kiosk, just black the screen instead of for a screensaver, right? But I think the last episode we just had with Michael, he mentioned you've probably tried it. There's a script out there near the Windows computer to install a whole new version of Android on a Fire tablet. Had a quick look at it. It does look like you need to take the back off your tablet and put it into a reset mode by touching a couple of jumper points or whatever. So if you haven't tried that, maybe there's an option to try and.
Oh, I'm going to try it. I am no stranger to ripping apart random electronics that I probably shouldn't be in.
Yeah.
So.
Links to where the guide I found, there's a YouTube video that shows you how to do it are in the show notes of that previous episode. So yeah, definitely check it out. That might give you an opportunity to root the device and put a clean version of Android on.
Oh, definitely. Because I just love to. I like ripping things apart and just seeing what can I do with technology that probably shouldn't be done, but I'll do it anyway.
Yeah.
I want to see what I can do just for fun, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. And for listeners listening today, I'll relink that YouTube video in these show notes as well, just so you don't have to hunt around for it. But yeah, definitely, if you've got Windows available, I've got Mac at the moment, so if you've got Windows available, yeah, definitely give it a try.
All right.
Do you do, with those, I know you mentioned you're using the cameras on the thing. Do you do any people detection or anything like that? Or is that in your plans? I think you said you were going to do some object recognition down the road. Are you planning on doing that with those as well to say, hey, I detect a human rather than, hey, here's a bee or a fly or something buzzing past the camera.
Yes, actually, I'm glad you mentioned that, because this is also the other thing that I learned from Phil when he did his grossy stuff, when he was like doing stock stuff.
Yep.
I thought of a cool idea. I found a video a long time ago where they were trying to mimic like a Samsung smart fridge using their own stuff. So they use like a Raspberry Pi 1 and then like a USB camera and use the motion library. But I thought to myself, technology has advanced since then. I could probably do it better. So I did. I took a ESPi and I hardwired it into the 12-volt rail of the fridge, just so that I can have a good bird's eye. I changed the lens out to a fisheye lens, so that it can actually detect if I have like a certain object that I need from the store. If it's not there, it'll say I have none in stock for grocery.
Okay.
I've even considered doing that same automation by learning the new a new app called Home Charts. If you're familiar with that.
Home charts. I am not. What is that?
No, can you explain that for everyone?
Home charts is basically if you combine like grocery, if you combine like Todoist, like you do your to-do list, you have inventory, battery stuff. It's a combination, literally one app to control everything else. So you have like your note, you have like notes, it's basically also like book stack. It has it's something I came across about a few months ago, and I've always wanted to play around with it. It's a Docker container you can spin up.
So it's self-hosted, completely free, like open source, I'm imagining then?
Sort of. It's semi, but it's still a really cool project. It's in its early development stage, but I'm still really interested in it because it has an open REST API.
Nice.
So integrating it wouldn't be a big deal.
That's cool.
Interesting. I'm just looking at it right now. Might not be a bad thing to try out. It's kind of cool.
I thought maybe they can have like if once it's reached to a maturity age where it's actually in like full version development, maybe later down the line it could be used as like an add-on in the Hasio supervisor or something.
Yeah, like this is cool. I really like the look of this because I know like obviously you mentioned before I'm using Grocery, but this seems to have meal planning and inventory as well, right? Pantry management and scanning.
Yeah.
So that could be, and if it's got a REST API, it could easily be integrated with Home Assistant. Just using REST sensors and switches, and yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, I created a weird system with all of the Grocery stuff because I took what you had for your article to to a level that it probably shouldn't have been.
And even my level, people were like, dude, like, okay, there's automating your shopping list, but this is way too far, right?
Yeah.
And I was just using switches and dates or, daily automations to trigger things, right? So please, if there is a new level that you could take that to, I'm all ears.
Well, I'm glad because I have a bunch of those. So
Good.
So one of the things that I currently am just like doing right now, I took one of those those like you see in the stores where you like get a box of like macaroni and cheese and it pushes the stuff forward after you take a box out.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
Like the spring-loaded thing.
Yeah, I put a limit switch at the front of it so that once it opens and then closes right back, it minuses one out of stock. But if I push the switch, if I put like there's a two-way switch, if I put it in one switch, it means I add more.
Right.
Oh, interesting.
That's
okay,
cool.
so when you're restocking, it can then, say, okay, you've put one more back into circulation.
Yeah.
That's cool. Okay,
So
yeah,
I
that is a
tried
new level.
Yeah, it gets worse. I promise. I made, and I'm currently trying to get the bugs out of it. I made a kitchen scale in ESP Home where it uses like the HX 711 like weight scales, and it has a what was it called? A PN 532 NFC sensor. So what I thought is I put NFC stickers at the bottom of stuff that I need to weigh, flour, cereal, stuff like that, and then every time I put it on there, it scans it and says, "Hey, I know what item this is. I'm going to take its current weight, and then whatever its current weight and tear weight, I send it over to Grocery."
That is awesome.
Nice.
I've actually thought about because obviously Grocery has the tear weight support in there, and I've always been like, does that mean you have your rest of your flour in a certain place in the pantry, and you have a scale there, and you'd need to have a scale for all your items? But that NFC idea, that's really cool because now you only need one scale and little tags that are cheap as chips on the bottom of a packet or your container, so it knows what you're scanning and away you go. That is brilliant.
Oh, that's kind of the idea, because if I wanted to do this for my family, which is a generally older family, I wanted to be simpler for them.
Yep.
Where I'm also making scripts for this thing to not only have the shopping list in the Home Assistant, but also back it up over to the Alexa shopping list.
Yes.
But also do something really odd, because I found like Bearded Tinkerer made a video about having an online printer, especially using it like a D1 Mini.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, okay, it'd be cool because my grandfather is a little older, but he knows his way around technology. So I thought it'd be kind of cool. It's like, hey, I'm about to go to the store, so I'm just going to print off the list of what you need from that specific store.
Oh, interesting.
And I made it. I just did this earlier today. I made an automation where if your device tracker from the Home Assistant app determines that you're near a store and you're like, oh, hey, I'm out of this certain item and you're nearby these stores. Like if you're at a shopping center where it's like, say like a Costco or even a Walmart or stuff like that. Hey, you're missing this from this store. So you might want to go get that while they're around. Plus, I'm currently working on an addition to Grocery where it can pull your items and then have your UPCs and then ask the coupon.com API to see if there is any active coupons for those items.
Cool.
Wow. So basically scan a barcode and then say, hey, is there any discounts for this item or any sales? Away you go.
Yeah. So
cool.
it's
Nice.
kind of just making it easier for me to save money. I mean, I did integrate Instacart into it so it can deliver those specific groceries.
Nice. That's cool. Does Instacart have an open API too?
No, they do not. They have an undocumented one, and I found a GitHub project that uses Ruby on Rails to integrate with it.
Okay.
So, I'm not a Ruby developer, so I had to just kind of trudge my way through and hope I could find it.
Yeah.
They base it off of the store number and then the item number of that store number. So I had to make a special, text fields in Grocery to determine what item it is in what store. And then it can determine what's the best price and then say, hey, I have enough items in here that I could do an Instacart order. So would you like me to send an Instacart order? I was like, go for it.
That's cool. Very cool.
That is kind of neat. So basically you've got grocery shopping more or less automated and or all the way up to your door potentially.
Yeah, I tell my dad this stuff and he looks and he's like, you do realize almost like it seems like every automation you make, it's another pound you gain from the amount of laziness you have. And I was like, you know what? Fair enough.
Yeah, can't automate the gym yet.
I have.
Okay.
Of course,
Sort of. Okay, so there was a post on the Home Assistant forum about a guy taking one of those Aqara door sensors and putting one of the car seat sensors in line with it instead of using the reed switch.
Mm-hmm.
So what I thought, this is going to sound funny. So I put that door seat sensor on my exercise bike, and when I sit down, and I have to do 30 minutes a day. So when I sit down on the seat, it starts a timer in Home Assistant. But if I have to get up to go get water, it pauses that timer. But if I've been off of that seat and I haven't finished that 30 minutes, and I've been off of that seat for 5 minutes, my echoes consistently yell at me, and then my entire house just blinks red until I get back on the chair.
Nice.
I'm passive aggressive to myself.
Yeah. So basically every 10 minutes your cats are getting a heart attack from the echoes yelling about something or the other.
No, she doesn't mind. She doesn't mind loud noises because I've been a DJ for 15 years. I have constant loud noises happening all the time.
I think all you're missing is an integration. Have you heard of there's a device called the Pavlok? And it's a little bracelet that gives you an electric shock when you don't, it's designed to make you, stand up more often or make you form habits. All you need to do is, integrate it with I think they've got an API that you can integrate it with. And every 10 minutes, if you haven't been on that exercise bike, it sends you an electric shock just to remind you.
It's funny you mentioned that because I considered buying that for my mom for Christmas because she has a problem with talking so much that she forgets what she's doing. So it was a joke between me and a coworker because we work in the same office, me and my mom. So we thought we can buy her one of the Pavloks, and I considered buying one myself because I needed to lose weight.
I like that. here's a Christmas present. We're going to electrically shock you for annoying us for talking
Yeah,
too
here's a
much.
human shock collar. Yeah.
It's just my mom would look at me and says, "I love you anyway."
That's funny.
Oh, that's good. So in terms of like the technology stack you're using around the house, so you mentioned before you got Z-Wave, I can see it looks like you've got some form of colored lights in your background on the video. What sort of technology are you running around your smart home?
I'm glad you asked. So I just finished doing a Hyperion setup for my TV in this room, since each room that I work on, this is the first finished room we got into. Okay. So I recently bought those like cough bulbs. Like, have you ever heard of the cough bulbs that they already preloaded with ESP Home?
Yep.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So I took those bulbs. I did not want to go ESP Home. It was mostly because I like to have the animations of WLED. So I did put these with WLET. But I did mess up one. I had bulbs that I got recommended to by DigiBlur. The problem is that I did not. It was from ESP Home, and I wanted to transfer over to Tasmota. Problem was that I put the minimal image on, and it did not have Wi-Fi manager on it, so I had to hardwire it. But the second bulb that I had, I ripped the pads off of it, so rip. So It's not fun. But to answer your question, most of the stuff that I have around here is using either ESP Home for some of the switches that I have. It's using Tasmota for some of the pre-made stuff that I had flashed, like some Martin Jerry dimmers, some other like single pole switches, and then WLED recently for all of the lights. In fact, I started hacking like lights from a store called Five Below, if you're familiar with that.
No,
maybe a local store or something.
Okay. No, it's not local. I think it's just in the Eastern Seaboard. So Five Below essentially is a store where they have stuff between $1 and $5, and then up to $10 and stuff like that. So I hacked a bunch of their lights, but it's mostly because they have cheap lights. Essentially, you turn the power on and off to change whatever color you want. That's essentially what it is. It's cheap, it just works. But I took the shells and I put WS2812s in it, and then, in one of them, my favorite one, it has SK6812s because I like warm white a little bit. Mm-hmm. I put a ESP01 in the base of these things, and then actually have them animated and use WLED with them.
Interesting. Okay. Well, I guess that's a good way to get around it.
So you know those Govee lights that they have where it reflects off the corner of a wall?
Yep.
They have a cheap one of those for $15, and it uses just regular LEDs. $15 is worth the metal it was made out of alone. So it was using a high density kind of aluminum, which is great to cool off some WS2812. So I was like, I'm buying them anyway. Grand. That's cool. So I took the strips, put them on there, and then I have them animated. with WLED, but I also decided to hook them all, including these two bulbs here, the three things that are, because one of them I had one of the both of the legs on one of them got ripped off because it was cheap plastic connecting them together. I used that one, and then the two that are still standing and these bulbs to integrate all into one Hyperion that's running Raspberry Pi Zero. I am almost cooking that thing.
I was going to say, on a Pi Zero? Jeez.
It's a Pi Zero 2W.
Okay, all right. Even so. Yes.
Even so, I'm still cooking the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. With your cloth wrapped wires, I'm sure it's going to work out well.
This is the room I replaced the wires in. Okay. This one's fine. Don't worry. I haven't had a house fire yet.
Keyword
yet being the operative word here.
And that's bad for me to say because my day job is in insurance.
Nice.
And I actually did some home automation recommendations because I'm in insurance.
Yep.
Which is really cool because what some of our carriers support the thing. What is it? A roost. That's what it was called. If you're familiar with what a roost is. It's like one of those, it's one of the batteries you put in fire detector.
Yes.
Yeah. So some home carriers, carriers for home insurance around this area can use that as telematics data to help them, lower your premium every month and stuff like that. So I thought it was kind of cool that I recommended that to them because then that could help them along the lines to do stuff like that.
Okay. That's kind of cool. I didn't actually realize that insurance companies would look at that kind of stuff to say, hey, here's a point of, doing whatever, right? A way to reduce your insurance costs, essentially.
American insurance can do like small stuff like that. But I did hear from, I think Lewis over at Everything Smart Home did an ad read for an insurance out in the UK that had like smart home equipment to help you with like floods and stuff like that, because it was for like a pipe, it was for like a whole home like power like a whole home water switch, which I wanted to do that myself because the Mow and Flow, when I saw that in the hookups video, I was like, that sounds wonderful to me, because then I could do some kind of funky stuff.
What would you want to do? Like, what kind of funky stuff would you want to do, though?
What kind of funky stuff do I want to do? That's a loaded question.
It is, yeah.
So it's mostly, not only just, detecting leaks for its intended purpose, but I wanted to also make sure it doesn't trigger it off when I fill in rain barrels if it hasn't rained that much around this area, because I'm going to build a self-sufficient ESP home powered greenhouse.
Cool. Okay.
It's using, I'm thinking about using it like having each individual pump in there, so it pumps the water when it's needed based on the conductivity of the soil. But I'm not using those cheap sensors because they corrode so quickly. So my thought is that because I like to grow fresh spices and vegetables, because my grandfather has a huge green thumb, and I wanted to help him with that, and I want it to be self-sufficient so that I can have solar and everything else like that. I made blueprints for a lot of like different things to make for my Home Assistant specifically. I think it would have been just nuts to like, I have a whole thick binder full of like, what was it? It was the greenhouse itself would have been self-sufficient, and I would have made the solar panels tilt of where the sun is, because it's using, I don't know if you're familiar with an O drive.
No, but is that one of those like things to follow essentially the sun?
No, it's a motor unit by Oscar Weigel. It's a board that can control BLDC motors as if they were stepper motors or servos.
Okay.
So it uses an encoder, and then it uses a BLDC motor. So I can have more strength to pull the solar panels without a lot of backlash either. So, and the cool news is that there's multiple ways you can interface with it. You can use UART, you can use, and you can even use, what was it? There's a chip, there's like a chip on board that can help you with all of that, but you can actually input, servo commands specifically for it, so that it can determine that. And all I would need at that point is just, ambient light sensors pointing at it and seeing where it can go.
Right. So then, and then you just you would tell these solar panels just to follow the sun around, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's really cool.
And I also considered, in that same thing, when I build the greenhouse, I consider putting a projector screen on one of the outside eaves, so that if I wanted to watch TV watch anything outside, it would be pre-built into the greenhouse, and all I would need is a projector. That way I can make it multi-purpose, because I take the inspiration from like Alton Brown from Good Eats. I do not want single taskers.
Yep, that's fair.
So I like to like push things to its absolute fullest.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I don't disagree with you. Might as well go all out, right? If you're doing it, so.
I mean, I'm still working on project so I can 3D print Thanos' Infinity Gauntlet from the Avengers,
right?
And having it do certain functions in Home Assistant based on what stones I pick.
Nice. Okay. Like what?
So I have an accelerometer built into the Infinity Gauntlet. So if I pick the time stone and I move backwards, it can show me using like save states of certain time frames. Like if I did this in the evening, it would show me what the afternoon looked like in what room that it's in, because it's using Bluetooth Low Energy. And I have ESP32s around that's using Bluetooth Low Energy location stuff. So I have it, so if I go back, it can make it look like what happened during this room, like what lights were on during that time, were the blinds open and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And if I go forward, it uses an AI I programmed in Python to determine what it would look like in the forward stage. So if I did this in the evening, it would show me what it would look like at around the midnight and then just the overnight era.
Okay, that's pretty cool.
Interesting. So how would you know, are you using scenes to say, okay, this is what the scene would be at that time, and therefore 4 hours ago was this time, so this is what scene would be done? Or are you using, what actually, are you using some form of history recording to say what had happened? How are you?
Yeah, I use history recording and scenes.
Okay.
But some of the scenes have minor modifications based on who operated it. Because there's some scenes like how these colors you can see reflecting off of me, like purple and green. They're specific to based on they're specific based on what time of day it is. And it's specific on who it is. I live alone, but I do have some programs based on what person enters a certain code in the smart door lock, since I have one of those quick set 916s, Z-Wave locks.
Yeah.
Which is funny because I have a special code for when I have women over.
Interesting.
Okay, it's kind of funny where I have Broadlink RM minis, and when I first moved into this house, it had a mantle with an electric blowing fireplace. It looks like it's just blowing hot air.
Yeah.
But it has a visual for a fireplace. So I thought to myself, I think I know what I want to do. I'm going to make an alternate code to unlock the door. It's going to be me, but when I have a girl over, it's going to turn all of my lights purple. It's going to go to Spotify, play all over the house. It's going to play Marvin Gaye, and just and then it's going to turn on the fireplace. And then I just walk in. It's like, oh, this is nothing. This is how I live life.
That's funny. It's like in Teslas they have romance mode or whatever, right? Which is one of the apps in there, and basically open it up and it's got the fire and it's got the heaters going for the heat, and then you tap it again and it plays it's basically just plays something from their romance
playlist
thing.
I would love a Tesla, but I can't. There's only one Tesla charging location in this general area within 50 miles.
Yeah.
So, and one of the cool things is
powered by coal.
That's right. But the best part about this whole thing is that I kind of modified my 2020 Kia Soul to do some of these things.
That's cool.
I made this is gonna sound nuts. I made an ESP32 running WLED, running underglow for the interior and the exterior, since underglow is legal in my state.
Interesting.
Then I also hand programmed. It was a nightmare to program, but in ESP Home, I made a special program that can interface with an ELM chip, which means it can give me UART data for my OBD2.
Cool.
And then because I used to have those automatic OBD2 sensors before they went out of business. Before they went out of business because of COVID.
Yeah.
So I needed to find something a little more local and make it work. And then I added an extra piece of code that uses Luma's code, where it's car presence detection.
Okay.
So that if it hooks onto the Wi-Fi, it's your car is home, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I integrated a part of it into an ESP Home project. So I have multiple different things going on. I made a horn out of a DF player and a gigantic 15-watt horn that I mounted in the grills of the front of the car. And I get away with some really weird stuff.
Nice.
I have so many sounds going on on a button panel that I made, and it just gets nutty. It does.
Yeah. That's awesome. So out of all of these, what is your if you had to rate your most favorite automation, what do you think that would be?
My most favorite automation is the family network, where I have all of my family's houses connected together into one.
Okay.
So I use zero tier nodes to connect my family's businesses and also our houses. They're aware that I do this, so don't worry. I'm pretty transparent with it.
Right.
So I make special automations for specific neighbors, because we're about a few distance apart, except my sister. She's down south in Florida. Mm-hmm. But what I planned to do was that if, for example, my grandfather went on vacation, then the neighbor would be my uncle. And my uncle would get notifications if something happened to his house while he was gone.
Okay.
Because there's a special vacation node. And since my server is a master server and it has access to all of it, it can determine what notifications get sent to a specific phone and then it shows up as entities through the remote Home Assistant component in hacks. It shows up as entities temporarily as in vacation mode.
Got it. Okay.
So it's a security thing, really, because we're a very tight knit family, and I really wanted to make things a little safer in our area. So I wanted to make sure that if I'm on vacation, then my house is taken care of. They can take a look at the cat when she's going.
Sure.
You know, somebody can help me out while I'm gone. I can help my parents out when they're gone. My grandfather and my uncle. Can't really do much about my sister because she's down in Florida.
Sure.
But she's part of the whole thing too.
I'm guessing trying to work out. So you've got, let's say you've got your phone connected to Home Assistant, so it knows your home. If you then connect to your family's Home Assistant, you know, which is a bit far away, Home Assistant will know, okay, you're away from home and you're also so far away from home that the house should be in vacation mode for you. Would that be accurate?
That would be accurate because where I have all of them, all of the Home Assistants are connected onto their own zero-tier network.
Yep.
Any states can go to my master node, and I have individual views for like a summary of how the house is doing.
Right.
And it can hand out notifications based on who's on vacation, because have been times where my uncle and my parents go on vacation at the same time. So updates to me and my grandfather is probably it's still in beta, but it's still working to a degree that I like it. Like,
nice.
Everything's a work in progress when it comes to home automation.
Right.
No, the project
awesome.
is never complete.
Yeah.
No, it's never complete. That's right. I'm still working on like automated washers and dryers, just so that I have like a robot arm that takes it into the washer and dryer, since I'm that nuts and I would be able to do that.
Nice.
I remember that there was a video I found that was like Ty Pulowski. He made an automatic like shirt folder using like 3 motors and 3D printed parts. Like, you know, those like things you see in stores where they have like the yeah. So I wanted to make something like that too, and just have it like I wanted to make a whole series about stuff I've seen on YouTube, but make it like Home Assistant upgraded.
Okay.
So it can be automated to a degree. I don't know why I want to do that. I just think it's just kind of fun.
Do it.
Where I want to.
You should.
I've always wanted to get into YouTube, but I've never had the experience to do it. But you can only get experience if you actually do it. So I'm in that little rut there.
Yeah.
That's it.
But yeah, I do a lot around my house where I try to help all of my family out with all of the notifications I have. Plus, also, since my mom's office is connected in its own like Pi, where it has like it's a little incubator space right now where we can determine if somebody's in the office when they really shouldn't be, like when we're out. So it gets security updates to my parents' Home Assistant. Cool. And one of the other things that I do is that since my dad and I have been entertainers for a combination of like 30 years around this area, we have trailers that are filled with gear, and that's a huge security concern around here because, I mean, it's expensive stuff.
Yeah. Sure. So easy to transport around, right? So easy to go walking by itself.
Yeah. So the idea is that I run a very minimal version of Home Assistant on like I did it on a Raspberry Pi Zero, but I'm going to put it to a Zero 2W because that one probably has a little more power behind it. So my thought is that I wanted to have automated lights in there. My dad mounted LED strips inside of it so he can see when it's like dark as night.
Yep.
Yeah. And that's cool. That's great, but it's hanging off the walls. It's not great. And I told him, dude, I can help you with that. And then when you open the doors, it can determine whether when it's night or day. When I can put like a little light sensor right in the groove of the door, it can say, hey, it's nighttime. I can't see anything. So it's just going to like, oh, hey, I'm going to turn it on real quick. But it only does that when the door is open, since there's going to be a contact sensor.
Where is the power coming from to power all this?
The power, since it's mostly going to be attached to the truck, and there is a power. He has a gigantic rig, so he has power going straight to it when he carries this thing. This is mostly meant for like when he goes out to shows into different cities, so that because he never like unmounts the trailer and then just stores it. He has to keep it mounted to his truck for security things, and I tend to agree with them.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So that's one of the things I try to do, and like there's like a bunch of other things I wanted to try and do because he has a tour bus, and it's currently in my backyard, and that's why I can't really build a greenhouse right now because my dad's tour bus took up like half my backyard. Right. So he's turning that into like a schooly-ish, but one of the things that he bought this specific bus from somewhere in Georgia, and it was really cool because it has no stairs.
Okay.
It has is ramps. It was made especially for like wheelchairs.
Accessibility.
It was made. Yeah, and this is great because we can carry gear in it as well.
Right. That makes sense.
So that kind of thing would be grand, and having automations based off of that, where I told him, I was like, dude, we can run a Zigbee node in here and have IKEA Fjorders running all because they're giant windows.
Yeah,
and he wanted blinds for those, so I thought IKEA Fjorders.
Yeah,
you want to go for that?
And they've got their own battery unit of them. Like, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, well, it's a open bus. You can just do whatever you want, run it directly through an inverter.
Yeah, then we considered. I made him a system where it uses an inverter. It's really cool because I wanted to make like an inverter that's not like a pre-made one. Like I know Linus Tech Tips did one about like the Jackery units, but I needed more like battery. I needed more like battery feedback. So I can determine like how much battery capacity do I have. So I came up with a concept that uses like an INA 219 like I2C sensor, so that I'd be able to determine like how much voltage comes through. And then I use like approximation to make that work. Like it's like there was a project, I can't remember what it was, but it was the Open Solar project. It was originally using it's a repository on GitHub where it uses like a Droke like charging unit, and then it can output that as MQTT messages. That would be very sufficient for me because again, it still goes on the ethos of being local, which is a cool thing because I wanted to also make everything make it so that it doesn't require internet, but when it does have internet, it does some extra stuff that's not like, mission critical.
Yeah. Yeah.
So like updating like the location state through the family 0 tier nodes. And then one of the cool things is that my dad was like, I want to be able to stream like you did because I have a Plex server that I serve to the family. So my grandfather specifically, he bought a lot of movies when Blockbuster went out of business around this area.
Yeah.
So he wanted me to just rip the existing DVDs since he's going to still own them. And then just be able to just stream them whenever he wants to, because I don't want him going up and down the stairs looking for that one DVD he bought in 2008.
Yeah.
So I made the Plex server, and then I upgraded it even more so that the rest of the family could use it and things like that. But my dad wanted that kind of functionality in the bus with no internet, and I figured out a way to do it using Jellyfin.
Yep.
And since Jellyfin on a Roku TV works great without internet, which is really surprising to me, but I found out. So I thought
really
about
surprises me. Like, how do you get the movies into the bus? Like, is it like rsync across or?
Okay, actually sync thing, because I wanted the integration with Home Assistant to determine how much has been synced, and then I used an app called Overseer that's also like self-hosted, so I'd be able to say, so I can tell them, it's like, tell it what movies you want, like from my system, and then it cross-references it with a Python script and says, "Hey, I'm going to give you this as a cron job. So I want you to take these movies that you requested and put it over to this file, so that I can synchronize it."
Right, and then I'm guessing like Jellyfin or Plex will then pick it up and have it available on that bus without internet.
Correct.
Right, makes sense.
So I try to like extend technology to a point where it's almost insane.
Yes, almost. I mean, when we started the episode, it was the passive aggressive toilet door. So yes, I think that is.
Yeah. I've done some other odd things, especially with using ESP Home, because I can get away with some kind of dumb things with it. I have these. I'm right now building a node for this bed in my bedroom where I have drawers under the bed. So I wanted to reuse the LED strips that I ripped out of those bars that I mentioned. Yeah. So I wanted to reuse them. So, and since they're 5-volt like RGB like analog strips, they're not hard. I don't have to run like a 12-volt rail or anything else like that. I can just run straight 5 volts off of a D1 mini and be fine. Plus, I wanted like sensor, like one of those sensors where it can determine if I'm in bed or not. Mm-hmm. So I thought combining it all together in one would be cool. So I have 6, since I have 6 drawers, I have 6 contact sensors, and then 6 tiny bits of the light strip of those cheap ones. Put them in there, and then each contact is going into an ESP home node for like an ESP32, and then it's determining like when the door opens, it turns on the light. The reason I want that kind of connected is mostly because I can still have the lights glow even if the doors aren't open. So I can still, because my house is basically one giant gaming PC at this point.
Yeah, pretty much. Like if you think of a gaming PC with, all the RGB lights in the middle of the PC case, I'm guessing that's like your house, right?
Oh yeah. Like I started with LifeX bulbs, like the original LifeX stuff. And then I moved into getting into like 2U convert stuff when that was still alive. And I just got a lot of the bulbs on like really good sales. And then I started getting into putting all of those bulbs of whatever I can into WLED because I like the pre-made stuff in WLED, like effects and stuff, because I can't really do that much in Tasmota, let alone ESP Home. But again, everything in this house has a use case for Tasmota, ESP Home, or WLED. And I have all 3 of them, and I have no affinity for each of them. They just have their different use cases.
Yeah, I can understand that. And you find what use case works for you and you go with it, right?
Yeah. So I kind of find a lot of, I use a lot of stuff around here where I can automate stuff like my stairs and automating a trash can. That was fun.
Like inside the house or outside the house?
Well, okay, both. The inside part, it uses a ultrasonic sensor in the lid that I installed to determine how much capacity is in the trash can. And since they're using ESP01s, it's not taxing, and they're using and it's using like one 18650 cell, so it only wakes up every little bit, so it doesn't drain the cell completely.
That's awesome. So you could have like a card in Home Assistant that says, inside trash bin is 50% full.
Yeah, and then when trash day comes around, using like the trash component, like there was a custom one for hacks.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
When it comes around, it can determine how much is in the trash can and say, hey, you need to take this trash from this room, take it from this room, and take it out. Which leads into the outside part of this, where I live on a little bit of a hill, so it's been a little bit of a challenge for me to get this working, but I got a stable one working for my grandfather since he lives a little flatter. My thought is that I hacked one of those hoverboards. I hacked the hoverboards just to get the motor and the wheels out, put it in one of those like one of the bins with the wheels on it.
Yep.
And so that it takes itself out to the curb and then parks itself. And then after the accelerometer says, hey, I've just been upside down, that means I just got emptied. So it puts it down, and then it takes it back to its safe place, like locked up. In my grandfather's case, it'd be his garage.
See, that's pretty cool.
Okay. Wow. So I'm imagining this is going to be on like the local news as a terrifying, bin that's just driving itself around the house or something. But wow.
Yeah. Because I've done some terrifying things, and I've shown a lot of this off when I do Raspberry Jam coordinations, because I'm the only one in the state of West Virginia that's certified Raspberry Pi educator.
Yep. Okay. Well, there you go. So that makes sense why you've so good with all the Raspberry Pi stuff, right?
Well, yeah, because I have a, like, on my arm, I have a tattoo of a Raspberry Pi. I'm that
dedicated.
I freaked out the people when I went down to go get my certification, because I talked to the Raspberry Pi Foundation that was doing the certification.
Yep.
One of the people said, well, I think Matt, one of the guys that's over the U.S. district of the Raspberry Pi Foundation. He said, I'm the biggest fan of Raspberry Pis. I walked up to that man. I showed him my tattoo. And I was like, you now have a new challenger.
Wow. That's cool. But see, I also feel like if you worked there, you would never get a tattoo of that.
Yeah.
Oh, No, I would. I would.
Oh, really?
I'm
That's
just
cool.
Because I'm turning this also in my arm into a gigantic sleeve of a circuit board.
Nice. See, that's really neat. Yeah, I would never get a tattoo of a logo of my work because I love them, but not that much.
It's funny because I'm making each little chip on my arm like stand for something I use. Like I already have a Home Assistant one in the works for a tattoo because that, and then an ESP Home one because I think the logo looks fantastic. Tasmoda, and then stuff like that. Stuff that I haven't gotten away with. I love their projects, and I just love to have it as like a giant circuit board because I've been in smart home for the longest period of a hobby or even a job at this point. So, yeah. I mean, I like to show off that I can do a lot of cool stuff and get away with some weird things too.
Totally. I like it. Well, Brett, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. You certainly, I didn't think you could go as far as you have with Grossy. You think you've given me some ideas on how further I'm going to take Grossy. And yeah, I think the hoverboard automating the trash can is absolutely fantastic. I think if my rubbish collection was able to put the bin in the same place every time, and there wasn't a fear of it, driving itself into a neighbor's house halfway down the street, maybe I'd consider it. But yeah, I think there's definitely some good inspiration there.
I considered a modification for mine where I wanted to make like a little trash can. I wanted to build out of wood, like a trash can corral, because in my specific area, people like to steal trash cans, like the good ones.
Yeah.
So I wanted to make a trash can corral that uses like magnetic locks so that it only unlocks during the times where the trash man work, because our trash system is not like the normal national one. It's run by the city. So they have a strict time of when they go through certain areas and how they do it. So I know what time they always come here. So
right.
It'll unlock the doors only once, and then once you close the doors, it locks back. And then says, "Hey, I just recorded they took the trash out at this time."
Interesting. Well, yeah, Brett, thank you so much. We do appreciate it. We will have links to all the stuff that we've talked about today. I'll try and flesh that all out in the show notes. Brett, thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Cheers.
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 If you want to share your Home Assistant journey or come on as a guest, reach out to us at feedback@hasspodcast.io. That's HASS podcast.io.
The Home Assistant Podcast is hosted by Phil Hawthorne and myself, Rohan Karamandi. For links to topics we discussed today, check out our show notes on hasspodcast.io.